Hey guys, so yeah, the second episode of My Hero Academia season 5, and let's just jump right into it and talk about the whole aftermath confrontation between Endeavor, Hawks, and Dabi. Cause that again, as you know, when I pretty much reviewed like the first episode, I told you guys that one of the couple phrases you're gonna have to learn to hear, like you're gonna have to get used to hearing from me, is things like retrospect, hindsight is 2020, and this is definitely one of those times where hindsight really is 2020 as a manga reader for me. This moment here with Dabi and Endeavor really should have been the moment where I just instantly joined the obvious consensus within the My Hero Academia community that we're pretty much all on board with the idea that, spoiler, Dabi was Endeavor's son. And looking back on the previous seasons, the clues and breadcrumbs are all there. But I was still one of the few, if not the only holdouts at the time from actually accepting it as a reality. And in retrospect, I think it was just I think for me one of those things well, where it's just where it was one of those odd situations of confirmation denial where but by the time I reached this point in the manga, I think I did subconsciously believe that I think I did subconsciously believe in the idea that Prince Dabi was Endeavor's son, but I still needed to see the reveal for myself to actually believe it, if that makes any sense. Which, on that note, this kind of setup really taps into what I believe is frankly one of the series and Kohei Horikoshi's strengths, which is that this the series knows how to get the most out of plot and character reveals, even the obvious ones. Yeah, it's yeah. I think at this point we pretty much every one of us pretty much knows that pretty much Dabi is Endeavor's son. But knowing that is only one thing. The way the series is gonna build up to that reveal from here is kind of fucking insane, and how it all ties into Dabi's overall personal scheme is hauntingly and beautifully terrifying in all the right ways. If you pretty much think when I pretty much say this, if you guys think you know how things are going to go from here, and how you think that the whole reveal is going to, and how you think you might know how the whole reveal is going to be handled, trust me, you do not. Dabi is a sick fuck. Dabi, all I will say is that the way Dabi reveals himself to Prince Endeavor is sick. Is just proves how much of a sick puppy he has become. Yeah, that's all I'll say. um, and and that's not even including the personal fam and all of this of what we see with Dabi and Endeavor and all that's not even including the personal family drama we pretty much see occur at the Todoroki home between pretty much between Prince Natsuo and Endeavor, which, if this season ends where I think it will, then then let's just say that between the blow up between the blow up of the two, of the father and son of Endeavor and Natsuo, as well as Shoto's willingness to see Endeavor's growth unfold. Let's just say if the fight with pretty much high end was the start line for basically a lot of Endeavor's character, then this is the point where Endeavor's character arc just goes full stop, just goes full force forward. The development for Endeavor just constantly builds on, it just kind of builds up on top of each other from here. That's kind of how intense the series really focuses on Endeavor from this point on. And Ali, and it's all going to come together, and and if I'm kind of right in my assumption here, all the development that we're gonna that we're gonna see from Endeavor is gonna all come together beautifully in the final episode of this season, because that's where everything will that's where everything is gonna come full circle for Endeavor and the Todoroki family, assuming I think I know the stopping point for the season. Now, whether or not we're gonna have now the big question, I guess, is whether or not we're gonna have the same whether or not we're gonna have the same amount of angry reactions as we did in the manga remains to be seen, because that's the other side of this coin. Unfortunately, is that while the development for Endeavor from here on is amazing, it's also kind of one of those things where the response has had where there's been a lot of anger response, where when this stuff was in the manga there was a lot of anger responses going on. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. um with that said, we touched upon more of the teaser from the end of the last season, which includes the end of the last season where we see pretty much Izuku in the whole mind space of his quirk of one for all, and the other holders of the quirk, and with this it includes a more complete picture of the conflict between the two brothers. And the thing that's really sticks out with when we see this conflict in a lot more context is that both the first and All for One, they're both kind of right in this particular instance. Obviously the first is correct, that All for One is exploiting people's weaknesses. That right there is a contextual fact. We've pretty much seen that play out. We've pretty much seen we've seen that kind of side of him in action. It is there, but to a certain degree, All for One is kind of right. It is true as well that All for One, he is so powerful that his quirk is so powerful that in a way, he does offer salvation to those who despise their powers and whose powers are despised by others, while also offering power to the powerless who are unable to defend themselves. Although in the latter case, there is still a very real argument that left untrained, that power can easily corrupt, as we see later on, where one who is supposedly a follower of All for One pretty much used his power in order to cause mass destruction. So yeah, so and even though and the other thing is that even though we see a lot of these events unfold during a darker point in history of quirks and powers and whatnot, it does still really dive into that sort of X-Men philosophy of this world, and how even though quirks are more widely accepted now today, there will always be people with these powers who are ostracized, and those that are abused by those with these powers. It's a never-ending cycle hidden beneath this fantastical world of heroes that's been created, and this really kind of paints all for One as a sort of a Magneto type figure, as someone who believes in the supremacy of the powerful, of the power that has been gifted to the world, and should be used accordingly to that belief. So it's it really adds this weird sort of dimension to All for One, where he really believes that these powers are meant to be shown and shared with the world, even if it's by violent means. Sometimes it's sort of a weird twisted idea of pretty much giving those with powers the pretty much freedom in order to do whatever they want with it. And hell, if it happens to serve his purpose, it's fine by him. Now, one of the other big things to talk about with this episode is the reveal that Hawks has been working with Dabi and the League this entire time. But even more than that, and there was something that was teased in last week's episode, but here we not only get more context to it, but we also get the reveal that on top of that, him being he's basically going undercover as part of a mission to given to him by the Hero Safety Commission. And honestly, already this is such a beautiful setup, because already I can tell you this is like one of the most beautiful setups I can see, because it's one of those interesting things where what you pretty much see on the surface isn't necessarily what's going on beneath it. And in between these two reveals, let's just say this is the start of a whole roller coaster of a character arc for Hawks, where one little thing you're gonna find more often than not with Hawks as this little character arc of his goes forward is the further along you pretty much go, the more you'll find that Hawks' actions and his motivations are kind of drenched in shades of gray. Because just from that flashback you see of him like being given the orders to join the League and turn a blind eye to any casualties along the way, kind of puts this most recent battle in perspective, where Hawks knew he couldn't get direct involvement, so instead he used Endeavor as a proxy to fill the role he couldn't in the moment. And this also kind of exposes the Safety Commission, though, in a way where their attempts to take down the League are not only using rigid and in some ways unethical methods to do that, but their whole ideology of just taking down the League itself, it kind of directly conflicts with what a hero is supposed to do, and especially with Hawks and his own ideals right now. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and also Crunchyroll. That Night of Vinny, signing off. Later, guys.